Welcome back to Homesteading with the Zimmermans, where each week we give you another episode of what's happening here on our Northeast Iowa 21-acre homestead. My husband Alvin and I have been married for 25 years, and we have 7 children. 5 of those children still live at home. Our oldest 2 are married and no longer live at home, so this means we also have 2 son-in-laws and 1 grandson so far. So on our 21-acre homestead, we seek to preserve the self-sufficient lifestyle of our Old Order Mennonite heritage for the next generation. We involve the children in every aspect of the homestead, from raising and harvesting our own meat, gardening and preserving to fill the family's larder, or preserving the dairy from the family milk cows, plus all the many other skills that develop the character and integrity and relationships of a family that seeks to bring glory and honor to their Heavenly Father. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Homesteading with the Zimmermans. Now that we are into January, we're going to get really into cooking from our larder. We ate so many treats and special foods over the holidays that it's time to dig deep and work on eating from our larder. And my friend Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead, she does a pantry challenge where they don't buy any groceries for 2 months. And I kind of loosely follow that, which just looks like me being very intentional about using up what we've preserved. But I might go and buy some ingredients, special ingredients, to keep our family dinner more special. And if somebody has a birthday, we do special requests for that as well. What we're going to make today is pasta. And I've done pasta videos in the past, but I love making pasta. So pasta is, you know how meat hasn't always been a staple in a family's diet or pantry or refrigerator. This stems back to our great grandparents. They didn't have a good way to preserve their meat. It was salted and it was precious, so they used things like rice and potatoes and pasta to make their meat dishes stretch. So that's what pasta does for us too. Now, because of the homestead, we have an abundance of meat right now, but there's still I still like to stretch my most expensive ingredient as far as I can. So pasta is one way that we do that. We're not a huge fan of rice, so we don't use a lot of rice, and because that's something we have to purchase. Beans are also something that we have to purchase at the time. We'd eventually like to get to the point where we grow enough of our dried beans where we don't have to purchase them. And potatoes we have plenty of. So potatoes and pasta is the way that we stretch our meat dishes. So I'm going to be making pasta with duck eggs. I've been saving these since before Christmas, and they're in the back of my refrigerator because duck eggs make the best pasta. There's something about duck eggs. They're creamier, and they have just a little bit of a different protein makeup. I think it's possibly more protein, and it just makes better pasta. You can make pasta. I made pasta for years with chicken eggs. It's fine. It's just this is my preferred method. The other thing I wanted to show you is I found this Pasta Granny's cookbook at a surplus store, and I've been a fan of Pasta Granny's social media and YouTube channel for a while. So when I found this, it was extra special because you all know how much I like the printed word rather than an online word. So this book has inspired me. I'm still going to be using my original recipe today, but they have recipes in here that I know you can also find online, but there's something special about opening a book and following somebody's recipe. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. The kids are still home on break this week. So I'll have plenty of help, and we'll be using our pasta machine and putting the pasta through that. So I need 12 egg yolks, and since duck eggs separate from the whites, since duck yolks separate from the whites a little harder than chicken eggs, I am going to use my special tool that I have here. If it were chicken eggs, which here is a chicken egg, I'll just show you how I would do it if I was doing it with chicken eggs. If I was using chicken eggs, it would simply work like this. And the white just cuts off like that. But duck eggs separate a lot harder. So I'll be using this handy little tool, and I still have to use my hands. Also, duck yolks are a little bigger than chicken yolks, so I usually plan that I'm going to have to add more flour. So now that I've got my 12 egg yolks, I need 6 whole eggs. Also, it's a lot harder, like duck eggs, the shells are a lot harder, so it's hard not to get pieces of shells in your 4. I better build my canal there a little better. 4. And this makes 6. Hadassah, will you go fill up my flour container? So if you watched me make pasta before, you know that I usually do it in a dish. But I was inspired by that book to try and do it like this. But I'm such a messy cook, I don't know if this is going to work for me. You know, it's probably a matter of being used to a method, but we're going to try it. So the first thing I have to do is I have to whip all of these eggs together. I have to cream these eggs here in the middle. So duck eggs are also a little more tough than chicken eggs, so the yolks don't break as easily. Okay, so the next thing I need, I'm gonna mix this in with my egg portion. Well, I'm gonna do this one, you can add the water. I need 1 tablespoon of oil, and I am using a melted tallow. You could use olive oil, but here again, olive oil is something we have to buy. Tallow is something that we can grow here on the homestead. So that's why I'm using tallow. You can use any kind of oil you want. Okay, Harrison, the next thing we need is 3/4 a cup of water.
My turn.
You want to add that? Okay, you want to pour it here in the middle, my pond. Whoa, whoa, stop. It's right. Okay, we're making a mess.
No.
Okay, you may use this measuring cup.
Yeah.
And get some more flour ready for me. Okay, just set it there. I don't need it quite yet. You can set it on the sink instead of on my cutting board.
Can I do that?
In a minute, you may help when it's not quite so messy anymore. What do you think?
Messy.
It is messy. I should have used a bowl. I know my limitations, don't I?
What does that mean?
Like, I know that I'm messy. So therefore, I usually use a bowl.
Are you almost done
Done?
with making this?
Yes, almost. The next step will be it has to rest. Will you stir the soup, Maxwell? Make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. Okay, Harrison, I need you. Don't dump all of it in.
Okay. Ready?
I just need you to dump some here on my hands. Little more. There we go. That's called flour cleaning. You use flour to clean your hands of dough.
What if I made a flower like this?
Yeah, that's a pretty cool flower. Okay, can you dump a little more flour on my hands? Little more, that's good. This is what you kind of want your dough to look like when it's all done. It'll be slightly sticky, like it'll kind of grab your fingers, but it doesn't stick to your fingers a lot. And you can start seeing little strands of gluten develop. See how it's a little stretchy and then it tears? So you'll work it, and if it's easier for you to work in 2 separate batches, I mean, this is a really large batch of noodles. This is like a large family size, you know, because I used 18 eggs. So it might be easier for you to begin if you make a smaller batch. And this recipe, this printable recipe, will be linked in the description. That this is like my basic pasta recipe. Like I use this for everything. Lasagna noodles, any place that we would have pasta. I make like a basic pasta, like a wide egg noodle kind of, and we use that for almost everything except lasagna. I make dough sheets for our lasagna, and I wouldn't have to. I could just layer homemade pasta on it too. Anyway, so this is ready to rest, and I'm gonna wrap it in saran wrap, trap the moisture in there, and we're gonna let it set for a couple hours and let the gluten develop. I don't know how. Vegan butter would probably be like margarine. It's all just made with seed oils. Nope. They shouldn't be allowed to call it butter. So we're just gonna let this rest for a couple hours. And I'm not gonna put this in the refrigerator. You could put it into the refrigerator for a day or so. It'll get a little darker. If you let it in the refrigerator for over 12 hours, but it doesn't affect the flavor or anything like that. I'm just gonna let it on the counter for an hour or two, and then we'll get to making noodles after the kids have had lunch. And I have to clean up my mess now. I really should have used a bowl. I would have a lot less mess to clean up if I had used a bowl like my instincts told me to. All right, Maxwell, see if you can get me a dough chopper. Where I can chop them all.
I will.
Like it's just like a flat
No.
scraper kind all the way back.
All the way back. I'm gonna go all the way to.
No, but you're on the right.
Mom? That's skinny.
Let's put it not quite all the way back. See if you can find me a dough chopper.
Started at 1. That's the biggest, right? No, this is the biggest.
Huh? Yeah, let's not do it quite the biggest. Yeah, we can kind of smush them with our hand that way.
Can I help you do it? I got it, Mom.
Good job.
Did you go?
Okay, yes.
I'll chop.
I'll chop and you put them through. Okay, go like this with them before you put them through.
I'll put them through.
Okay, Maxwell, you can stand right here. You get a ball. You smash it flat. And then you put both sides in the flour. And then you shake it off and give it to them.
Winston.
Weston.
Winston.
Hold it when you.
I can't do that.
Yeah, that doesn't work if it has too much flour in it.
I just go flip, flip.
And then knock it off. I think it was wet and then the flour stuck in the
Mom,
middle
was
of
this
it.
it?
Nope.
I wonder when Jesus is going to fast.
basketball
I kind of remember Jesus fasting.
You can see this dough has rested for about 2 hours and you can see how much more stretchy it is. Like I can pull it without it breaking. So that is how important it is to let the gluten develop. So if you're struggling with your pasta making, it could simply be that you're not letting your dough rest. Yeah, we can move that, Maxwell. Okay, now we're going to 3. Okay, you may take this over on the, and then we start with these. Yep, you can. Look, you're just going to lay them down each side. Now,
Does Henry does that?
here, let's start with this one. Okay.
I want to hold that, Mom.
Each person gets it and puts it in flour and then goes to Harrison, okay? We don't, that way only one person handles them.
Put it in nice neat rows so that.
Yep.
Okay, now go to Harrison.
You got to kind of push it in, Maxwell. Now grab it from the bottom. And then go lay it nice up there where the other one is. Good job. So now, we started them out on a fairly thick setting. And then we take each dough sheet and lay it in flour on each side again. And then we put it in on setting 3. And then we're going to lay them all down. This is how thin they are on setting 3. So if you're finding that your dough is not coming through nice and smooth like this, you're decreasing your thickness too fast. So the first thing we did is, we made a little ball, then we smashed it flat, and then we put it through once at about a 5 or a 6. And then our next setting is a 3. That's as skinny as we want to go, as thin as we want to go. But if your dough sheets aren't coming through nice and smooth, go from a 7 to a 5 to a 3. Because if you decrease too fast, it doesn't come through in a nice sheet. So in the past, you may have seen videos where I've ironed the dough sheets, and that's simply to dry them a little bit. They go through the cutter a little better if they're partially dry. Today, I have plenty of time, and we don't need the space. So instead of instead of ironing each dough sheet on each side to dry it a little bit, I'm simply going to let them lay for probably 30 to 45 minutes. And what's going to speed it up is I'm going to turn a fan on them and just help them dry out just a little bit. And they're just going to air dry instead of iron dry. Okay, we're going to show you when we put it through the thin noodles. You can really see it when the dough is too wet. See how it kind of crinkles them up and they don't come apart properly? Okay, stop once. That is all because your dough sheet is too wet. You'll be able to eliminate this problem if you let your dough sheets dry or iron them like I did in my other video.
Like this. When you pull it, you can pull it.
Yeah, they're just not cut properly. Okay, we'll let those dry. So after our dough sheets have been drying for about 15-20 minutes, we flip them all around so the other side can dry. And here you can see what they start to look like when they start to dry. They're just a little more stiff and the edges start to curl up just a little. So as soon as our dough sheets that were closest to the fan were dry enough, we started running them through the cutter to turn them into wide noodles. And you kind of have to, because the edges dry out faster than the rest of the sheet, you kind of have to force the edge down into the cutter to get it started. So as you can see, I left some of my dough sheets whole because I have lasagna planned as a dish for an upcoming family dinner. So I just simply am going to dry these dough sheets without cutting them. So then the rest of the pasta, I am just going to spread out on some clean sheets on a spare bed. And we're just going to let them here for a couple days and let them air dry. Some folks have said that they use a dehydrator or an oven, but I like to put them on a bed and forget about them for a couple days because I don't have a dehydrator big enough, and I really don't want to put them in my oven because I use my oven every day as well. So we just let them air dry just the way my mom and grandma did with their pasta. And then when they're all dried, they will be shelf stable. So if you live in a very humid climate, you might want to turn a fan on your pasta to help it dry. But here in the wintertime especially, our air is very, very dry, and I won't have any problem getting these all dried within probably like 48 hours. So here's my lasagna noodles after 24 hours, and you can see how dry they really are. So we're just going to gather these up to make our lasagna, and the rest of the pasta, we're just going to let that lay to dry for another day or so. All right, friends, so all of the noodles that we're not using for the lasagna are going to get stored, and our family will use them over the next couple months. And you could store them in bags, but I like to store them in these big food grade buckets because the big buckets keep them from getting crushed. So when I first started showing the making of homemade pasta or egg noodles on social media, people were concerned about bacteria growing. And the thing is, bacteria cannot grow where there's no moisture. So because these are dry, there's no risk of bacteria growing, even though we used eggs and didn't, we used raw eggs. However, so I'll keep this big bucket, and I have successfully kept homemade pasta for 6 months on my shelf, but I had to push it to the back and pretend it wasn't there. Because this will never last us 6 months. We'll go through this pasta in probably the next 6 weeks. We'll use it all up because, like I said earlier in the video, this helps our more expensive ingredients stretch. It's like rice or potatoes. So if you're still concerned about bacteria growing in your homemade pasta, you can easily just store it in the freezer and you'll be safe that way if you're still concerned. But for me, my family, we are not concerned about dry pasta. And this is the way my grandmother did it. This is the way that my mom did it. And we always did it this way. And there never was any concern about bacteria because of the lack of moisture. So this brings us to the end of this video. I had originally planned to do the entire lasagna in one video, but then I got so carried away with making the pasta and filming that, that I didn't have the space to also add the making of the ricotta and the making of the mozzarella and the assembling of the lasagna. So that's going to be in next week's video. I'm going to teach you how to make ricotta, and I'm going to, just explain some more about what I know about mozzarella. I already have a mozzarella video, and then we're going to put the lasagna all together. And that's kind of gonna, this week and next week are kind of gonna kick off our, eating from the larder challenge, eating from the pantry challenge for the next couple months. So there you have it. There is our pasta for the next couple months.